Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a brand new film. How often do I do that? Not super often. The Strangers Chapter 1 is a new 2024 release. It's about an hour and a half long, thank God. It could have easily been like an hour and 10 minutes, somewhere in there. We had to have some fluff to stretch it out. And there's a lot to talk about with this movie. First and foremost, this is going to be a very negative review. I'm a huge fan of the original Strangers. I think it was 2008, maybe 2009 when it came out. I don't think people understand how big of a deal that movie was for people my age, even my mom's age, that was like, right at the 40s at that point. It, to me, when people talk about Halloween, for example, the OG 78 movie, when you have the younger generations, and even people my age sometimes, saying that they don't think the Michael Myers original John Carpenter classic is scary anymore, I understand what people were talking about with the things they felt watching that film, even though I wasn't around back when it released, when I saw The Strangers. Because the things that Halloween did about people invading your personal space, going into your house just because you were home, that scares me a lot now that I live on my own. At the time, I was living, obviously, with my family and stuff. Now that I am married, my wife and I live in our own little house by ourselves. That terrifies me. Now, I don't live out in the middle of nowhere, but if I did, and I've been to friends' house and stuff who do, I've been to, like, Tennessee, where I've rented cabins with my wife and stuff, and it's pretty creepy, the idea of somebody just coming up to a house that you happen to be inhabiting right now, and getting into the house just because you're there. The Strangers was a home invasion film, but the idea of like the OG Halloween film sunk into my brain more. The feelings people talked about with that movie made more sense to me at that point when I saw that film, because it managed to modernize that in the best possible way. And I loved it. I still think to this day that The Strangers is a fantastic movie. I would probably give it closer to a 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a tense-filled film. And frankly, I didn't have the time to review that film or the sequel I recently bought because I forgot this movie was coming out until my mom said something about it halfway through this week. We went to see it yesterday. And I wanted to cover those two films. I'm not going to be able to have enough time to do it before you see this review. I'm sorry. But that... I felt like it was kind of necessary to say the things I'm going to say about this movie. This is spoiler-free in case you haven't seen it. I do want to make it very clear, in case you have not taken the time to go watch this movie yet in the cinema, this is a straight-out remake. There's already 2 other films being filmed back-to-back, and Renny Harlin is the director of all 3. Of course, the director of Die Hard 2. I hate that movie. 12 Rounds with John Cena, which I enjoy for the most part. It ain't great, but it's a pretty decent time. And my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street film, Nightmare on Elm Street 4. I love Renny Harlin when he's doing horror stuff, so I was really curious what was going to happen here. And you had the 2 guys who wrote the Robert Downey Jr. Zach Galifianakis film Due Date, which was a very interesting combo. And they did a little King of the Hill work back in the day, too. These are comedy guys doing a little bit of horror, which was interesting to me. And again, when I saw the film, I agree with everybody. The general sentiment is that, number one, this is a straight-out, almost beat-for-beat remake, like the first trailer of this film showed, of the original film. It totally was. And I didn't really hear people talking about it. I don't think the trailer made a big splash like something like Halloween or Friday would. But people like myself were excited for this, because a whole new Strangers trilogy, why are you trying to franchise this so deeply? They had tried for like 10 years until Prey at Night came out, and that was super lame. To make a sequel to that OG film, kind of based on real stuff, kind of based on real events, kind of based more so, in my opinion, on just the idea of somebody invading your personal space, your home, harming you, your wife, your kids, whoever. That idea is terrifying. This film was a straight-out remake of that original movie. And I'm a little pissed off about that, because it's terrible. It's really terrible. It's not poorly shot. It's got a competent budget. It feels kind of small scale. And it's modernized heavily in the sense of, like, you have a girl and a guy who she kind of wants to get married, he kind of doesn't. They're on their way to, like, a job interview for her out in Portland, Oregon, and they get stuck in the middle of nowhere when their car breaks down outside of a diner. They have to take it to a garage. The guy doesn't really trust anybody, but he's super paranoid. He's a very weird, asthma-induced dude. And the girl I know from Teen Wolf, she was the redhead on Teen Wolf that turned into, like, the lizard from Spider-Man. I've always thought she was really good. She's really hot. She's good here, and I think he's okay. It's the writing and directing that he was given that's the problem for me. But these two get an Airbnb, like the only one in town. They go out to this place, they stay there, and of course we start to have the home invasion situation take place. But this is the second thing. Number one was that this movie is basically a remake of the OG, but number two, this film was boring. It's not that it's slow. I like slow burns. The original Strangers is an incredibly slow film in an incredible way. Again, kind of like that 78 Halloween film. That film at the time that it came out, and even more so over the years because I think it's aged incredibly, it really had me understanding what people like my mom meant back in the day when they saw the OG Halloween. It put a deep fear into me about hearing noises outside of my house, a hotel room I might be renting, whatever. And Strangers managed to burn that into my brain when I was a kid, like a teen, you know? So that really stuck with me my whole life. And when I see what Pray at Night did, when I see what Chapter 1 does, and I'm assuming Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 will do, because it's pretty much guaranteed they're coming. And I think they're all coming out this year, too. I think Chapter 2 is due in, like, August, if I remember correctly, September, somewhere in there. But I'm assuming all three are getting the release in kind of a Netflix Fear Street way, just not week after week, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that more companies are doing this. But how they will take this boring movie and stretch it into two more, possibly more interesting films, I don't know how that's possible. I really don't know how they can pull that off, unless they just kind of jump to a different group of people they deal with or whatever. You don't get much more development, which I think a lot of us thought would be the case for Chapter 1, 2, and 3 of the Strangers themselves, the people wearing the mask. There are three of them, just like there are in the original film in Pray at Night. People like myself thought this was a prequel going into it, and then I saw that trailer and knew that it's going to be a beat-for-beat remake, and it basically is. I'm not happy with this, mainly because the original film, the performances, the scares, all of it, it wasn't filled with jump scares. This movie kind of has some jump scares. It's not filled with it to the extent of something like I just reviewed, Blair Witch 2016. It's more of like a movie that is trying to have atmosphere, but the two main leads, despite them giving a solid performance, are so damn dumb that the movie just loses all tension because you keep thinking, why are you talking right now? Your phone moved from across the room to the other side on a shelf in an Airbnb that you lived in. You would think you'd have enough awareness to think of, you know, Mr. Nightmare's YouTube channel or something, and think about how there's the possibility maybe the Airbnb owner lives in here, maybe some hobo or something, I don't know. Not just serial killers, but somebody has to be in here. They don't even think about it being haunted. No, what happens? The main chick decides to blaze up, number one, take a shower, number two, number three, put on records and stuff to drown out music when she's by herself at one point very early in the movie before she really realizes what's going on. You have weirdos, or at least a weirdo, coming to your front door asking for some chick named Tamara, and by this point you've told them twice or three times, there ain't no Tamara here, bro. Get out of here. They keep coming back. You hear people walking on the porch of the Airbnb. You hear people rustling around in the woods where you have no neighbors and stuff. What the fuck are you thinking? These people are stupid. And the asthma boyfriend is even worse. He's just as bad. There will be scenes where he's like, you know, about to possibly have to confront somebody on a porch, for example. And instead of just going and handling it and maybe telling the chick that's right beside you, your girlfriend, fiance, whatever, to stay back a little bit to be safe, or watch your back or something. Instead of doing that, you want to have a 2-minute conversation about, I hear them. I gotta go around the corner, honey. You're telling me the person on the porch doesn't hear you talking? You made a point very early in the film, and I know this just from exposure to Tennessee and whatever, back when I would go to places like that once a year. I still do. What am I saying? But there's a quiet out there. Whether you have neighbors or not, there's a quiet to the woods that is terrifying in some ways and really peaceful in other ways. It's a reason why you hear hiker chicks talk about it all the time and stuff. But there's a quiet out there. They even acknowledge that early in the film, that you could hear so much out there because there's no cars or civilization except for probably over 5 miles away from where they're currently at in this Airbnb in the woods. And yet, you don't think, if you were around the corner of the house from somebody, if you are talking and you know someone is standing around that corner, you don't think they hear you? These two are dumb. These two are some of the most stupid modern day writing of characters I've ever seen in my life. It's been a long time since I have, I usually when you see this kind of thing, it's like 80s films or something until they became meta in the 90s and stopped doing that shit. But in the 80s, you had a lot of people panicking and talking out loud to try to maybe be the audience thought process or something. But in this movie, this is the first time in a long time that I have realized how uncommon that is now in film. Despite whether it be a good to all of us horror film or not, you don't really see that talking out loud, expressing what you're about to do, because the audience are not stupid. They can see what you're going to have to do. They have the sound effects and things to help them with that. I don't know what Renny Harlin was thinking. I don't know what the writers of this were thinking. The fact that this came from two writers that worked on Due Date and King of the Hill, which I love and respect deeply, Due Date being one of the best comedies in forever. I think it was a 2010 film, in case you haven't had a heart attack yet. That's like 13 years ago, 14 years ago now. Oh, God. But this movie, it's so stupid. I don't think it's a studio interference thing either. I think it's just stupid. And then it occurred to me what actually is going on here. I can't speak for Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, they're not out yet, obviously, but Chapter 1 is not only a remake of the original film that hasn't even been out for 20 years. No, what this actually is, if you really think about it, with all the cell phone usage, the car that has a startup button instead of just using keys like a regular old dude would do, because modern cars are weird like that. Who likes a button? That's not satisfying. This is a teenager's remake for modern day stupid TikTok teenagers of The Strangers and of things like Halloween. That's what this is. It is a teenager's remake of The Strangers. If teenagers are shown the original Strangers, I don't think they're going to think that it's boring. I don't think they do. I think Hollywood, and maybe people like Renny Harlin, think that about the younger generation. You don't hear young people talk about things like The Strangers, horror fan or not a horror fan. But this, all the talking out loud, all of the weirdo relationship stuff, because that boyfriend is super paranoid, dude, and he's a weird guy in general. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. A fan of this movie or not a fan of this movie, I don't think you can disagree with he's acting weird a lot. It's not just the asthma stuff and the inhaler stuff he's always looking for, by the way. He's weird. He's a weird guy in general. This movie doesn't get it right. There's something so off about this movie, but mainly it's boring. It's a teenager remake involving hefty use of cell phones and flashlights from a cell phone of The Strangers from back in the day. And when that really settled into my brain, and my mom and I were talking about it on the way home from the theater, we both couldn't realize what had just happened. And again, what are you going to do with Chapter 2 and Chapter 3? There's not much left at the end of this film, nor was there much there from the get-go and from the beginning of the movie. I kind of don't give a shit about Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. I kind of don't know what you could do to make those better or worse, to be honest with you. But if we're going to keep it boring like this, Renny Harlin, then that's going to be a mistake that I think that could kill the Strangers franchise off again. Not that it should be a franchise, but still. I like home invasion films. I like the original Strangers, and even Prey at Night isn't as bad as this. Prey at Night has a little bit of a style to it that I kind of like, in a very Adam Wingard way. This movie has nothing going for it. It doesn't really have a style. It doesn't really have a flair to it that really makes it stand out. I think that the new masks they use on these killers are kind of nice. It's kind of like a redesign with a sharper smile on the Baghead guy, the one that's like a knockoff Town the Dreaded Sundown, Jason Voorhees, Friday the 13th Part 2 mask. And I love it in the original Strangers film. I think it looks good in Prey at Night. It looks good here. The other two masks on the other two killers, the two female chicks, listen to that. They are kind of shitty looking. I really don't like them. They look very Betty Boop-like, and I know that's kind of the general idea for the two masks in the previous two films, but they look good there. They don't look good here. And I actually thought at one point, maybe we were just going to have two killers instead of three. No, that's wrong. There's three, but two of the masks look too similar. It's a very strange thing. This whole movie's weird. I don't know how to explain it otherwise. It doesn't really have like that great of a, there's no real gore or anything like that in here. There's not really any kills in the movie, to be honest with you. It's mostly boyfriend, girlfriend, sneak here, sneak there, talk really loud, thing happens to them, kind of jump scares, kind of not. and the strangers are just wandering around, taking their sweet-ass time on everything they want to do. It's a very weird film that isn't even that well done in the shots or anything, you know? I will say the music, as in the soundtrack that they have here, is pretty nice. I didn't expect to watch a Strangers film and hear Nights in White Satin, which was kind of cool. The other little songs they'd have playing on vinyl on the, what is that machine called? Record player? I was blanked out. I'm turning into a TikTok teenager, if you can't tell, because of this movie. I've been influenced by the influencers. This movie is just a mess. It's a total mess. It's a bad remake for teenagers, and it's dumb. It's really, really dumb, whereas I think the original film was very subtle, very quiet, very scary, and very clever, in my opinion. Despite not having a bunch of twists and stuff, this is just not good. And to have, of all things, the only other person I recognize in this movie is Richard Brake. Richard Brake is the cow man from Halloween 2. He's also the clown guy from 31, the other Rob Zombie film. But in Halloween 2, he's the other guy in the ambulance that they hit a cow, and he's like, cow! What? Cow! It's that guy. I love Richard Brake. He's great. He's like the sheriff in here, and he is no joke there for like 2 seconds. 2 seconds. He's got to be a bigger deal for Chapter 2 and Chapter 3. He's got to have some kind of involvement. You don't cast Richard Brake as a good guy or a clean-cut, not corrupt sheriff. You don't have that. I refuse to believe that he's not going to be a big deal in Chapter 2 and 3. That's just my opinion of it. Because Richard Brake, if you haven't experienced the Brake Man himself, you're missing out. He's great. Love that guy. Anyway, The Strangers Chapter 1 was a massive disappointment. I would have loved to have remembered about this movie. I need to get a calendar for in here or something. My wife and I just bought one for the fridge upstairs to have for, you know, events like my dad's wedding and stuff like that. We have things like that right now, but I don't have one right here for stupid movie releases. Things like that that matter to me and not to my wife. So I need to have some kind of thing marked out here on my desk where I can actually have a list like that. I need a calendar or something so I can keep up with it better. But I wish I could have covered the first 2 films before this. Since Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 are coming out later this year, maybe I'll try to jump on those before I talk about Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, respectively, on release. But I can't promise you anything. You never know how schedules will go, how life goes. But I'll try. I will genuinely try, because I love you guys. I'm thankful for you being here watching the content and hearing me ramble about horror films, newer or older. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for being here. And I guess that's all I really have to say. If I had to rate Strangers Chapter 1 on a 5-star basis, I think I would give it probably another 2 out of 5 stars. I've been giving that out a lot lately. The only things I really like in here are the small piece of Richard Brake. The diner scene I thought was pretty funny with the back and forth between the diner ladies and the boyfriend guy. And I thought the chick from Teen Wolf was really hot. I'm not a redhead guy, but she's pretty hot. And the Stranger's Mask. They look pretty good. They have a couple of cool moments that I enjoyed. That's really it. It doesn't really have anything to offer. And my mom kind of said the same thing when it came to the rating of 2 out of 5, you know? I want to like it more. I was hoping for more. I was hoping for surprises because it's Rennie fucking Harlan, but no, I didn't get that. So, I would love to hear what a lot of you guys out there have to say, whether it be just viewers of this video, whether it be subs of mine, whether it be friends of mine in the community who review films and stuff like BD Horror, The Horror Tavern is his channel, or, you know, Horror FFA, my friend Austin. I'd love to hear all of you guys talk about this stuff, man, because The Strangers is a big deal, in my opinion, or at least once upon a time it was. Prey at Night never revived that, and I think it tried. And now you have this, and I'm like, what were they thinking? You know? If you ever told me in a million years back in the day, let's say when The Strangers came out, if you told me that there would be a year in my future where you would have a new Omen movie and a new Strangers movie, and that I would love The Omen compared to a Strangers kind of slasher, thriller, home invasion movie, I wouldn't have believed you. It's kind of like the other year where I think I liked Scream more than I liked Halloween Ends. That's insane. What is happening now? I don't get it. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Sorry about the rambly, longer videos I've been doing lately. I kind of have been wanting to take my time with this channel and the videos I make out there so that I'm not rushed, the videos don't feel as rushed, whatever. Let me know down in the comments if you like that, if you don't like that. Do you like kind of the more 10-minute long reviews, or do you like this kind of Rambo Raft for Life style video? where I take my time and really delve into it. So I mainly cover these bigger series, these bigger movies, spoiler-free as always. What do you like that? Do you want the spoiler videos? What do you think? I'd love to hear everything you guys have to say about all that stuff down in the comments section down below, because I really want to accommodate what you guys want. It's up to you, though. I'm kind of struggling on time here lately. I've got a lot going on, other channels I'm working on and stuff too. But let me know everything you think about this style of video down in the comments section down below. I would love to hear everything you have to say. Yeah, if you're the person who liked Chapter 1, let me know. I would love to hear what your excuse is. just messing with you, but still, give me your best. I'd love to hear all that. Anyway, thank you all for watching, guys. God bless you all. Catch you later, and goodbye.